He seeks him here, he seeks him there. His style is flesh, he has no hair. Vibe will make or break him, so he's got to keep it right, 'cause he will never take a break from chasing women. And when he does...
Right then, welcome to another episode of the Womanizers Bible. I've got another special guest today. I thought, before I tell you who it is, I'll tell you the story of how I became aware of his existence on this earth. I was sitting in my room in Newcastle, bored out of my mind, on a gap between one of my Euro jaunts. I was just in a bad mood, a pissy mood. I don't know why. I can't remember what it's like or what it was for, but I was in a pissy mood. So anyway, I'm like just scrolling through Twitter, and I see this guy like crowing about what an awesome year he's had. And I was like, all right, well, it's cold outside. I'm in a bad mood, right? I don't want to hear that. It's one of my personality quirks is when I'm in a bad mood, I really don't want to hear about other people having fun. So I get a bit pissy and I say a few mean, passive-aggressive things about him. And then a couple of my Twitter readers who know me a bit better guess who I'm talking about, and they send me a few private messages, and they're like, Nick, you got this guy wrong. He's not one of those like American fronters that you're always complaining about. He's for real. And I was like, nah, come on, that's not real. And they're like, no, honestly, like I hung out with him for a couple of days in New York. I'm telling you, like he really is that guy that he presents himself as. So I was like, oh fuck, I gotta eat some humble pie now, haven't I? So I fired off a message to him. I said, look, sorry about bad mouthing you on the internet. I was in a bad mood. He's like, yeah, no worries, mate, no worries. So that was my introduction to Goldmund. So welcome to the show, Goldmund.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Right, my dad is just to deliver my coffee right now. So before I go get my coffee, how about you tell us a little bit about just what you've been doing last week or so? What's it like over New York in November right now?
New York in November. Well, we've had a pleasantly warm November, which has been nice because I have been infamous. I got started on my blog through the camera game. And so, approaching girls on the streets, like street photography, but also seducing girls through the street photography. And so God bless this wonderful November because the weather's been quite nice. There's been tons of girls out. And I met a fantastic girl in Times Square a couple days ago who came to model. And I took her photo, and she wants to do a photo shoot this weekend. So it's been good. It's been good in New York. The cold weather's coming in, but who knows? Everybody wants to fuck in New York, so it's
Right. So that's so I think there were three little things which will get my listeners' ears perking up there, which is not the modelling, like we hear plenty of that. It is the fact that you're in New York.
Yeah.
That everybody wants to fuck in New York, and the camera game. Now, this is getting me to the point of one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, which is that since my little Twitter episode with you a good few months ago, I've been following your blog. You've in that time you've come out publicly and your face is out there on the internet. You've spoken at a big event in Vegas, and so what I was watching over this year, following your blog and watching your videos, is you are doing a type of game which is interesting. It's a bit different. It's there's some creativity going on there. You're doing things a bit differently, and I really got the feeling that the stuff you do represents a kind of adventurous kind of raconteur type of style, but also, unlike my own prejudices of what the US players are doing, you're doing a charisma-based game. It's not based on building up a kind of mountain of value or a special inn or anything around you. So that appeals quite a lot to the sensibilities of what me and my friends do. So
Yeah.
So to let the readers, well, I think we're going to find some interesting things on this podcast, because what we're going to find is a guy who shares a lot in common with what the London guys are doing with the day game, but he's not doing London day game. So we're going to go along to that. So I think before we get ahead of ourselves there, the cart's getting quite far ahead of the horse there. Perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about your journey. Like, what was Blue Pill Chody Goldmund like, and how did he make the decision to become a player?
Well, the thing is, and with a lot of the guys like the in this community through the that I've read through the internet, I came ever since I was young. I was always that adventurous, rebellious little motherfucker causing trouble all the time. Since I was 5 years old, causing trouble, and I never had like real big problems with girls because I always had like a social circle that there was always girls coming in, coming out. But I also grew up in like a very weird, almost like cult-like religion. So sex was always bad to me. Like the religion taught us that. And so I grew up with this, but I also had that rebellious side, my personality. And I was into like the skateboard, snowboard, surf community who, the crazy motherfuckers dealing drugs and doing all this kind of crazy shit. So we always had girls like kind of siphoning through that. That was my teenage years. So there was always girls around, but with the religious aspect, there was always that part of me where sex was bad, and you're not allowed to touch them, but they're there. And then once I got like into my early 20s, going to university, then I took my studies very seriously, pushed girls out of the way, and I wanted to be religious. So my Goldman comes from Hermann Hesse.
I don't have an education, mate.
Hermann Hesse is a famous German literature philosopher, writer. Goldman is this guy who grew up very religious, but then he needed to experience the world, and that's how I always felt. That's where I took my pen name from. So in my early 20s at university,
So can I just interject one sec? This makes me feel a bit inferior because I took my pen name from a video game character. from one of the boss characters from the King of the Fighters Street Fighter ripoffs. Anyway, please continue.
Anyway, so I was into that, but I wasn't having sex with girls. I wasn't meeting girls outside of my social circle for a very long time. And so then, past university, I'm trying to, condense this to...
Hey, we've got all the time in the world. We can break this up into a couple of podcasts if necessary.
All right, so yeah, I'm trying to condense this, but early 20s at university, wasn't very interested in living the player life, but I was very interested in my studies and trying to become religious and making this part of my life a part of me. But then after university, I got in a relationship for about 2 years, and once we broke up, I was devastated. Became super depressed. This girl, I made her the focus of my whole life. Once we broke up, I was absolutely devastated, depressed for 2 years. It was absolutely horrible. That's when I came to New York, and I had my job here in New York, and then the only way I was getting laid was through my girlfriend, who was mediocre. I could have done a lot better, but she was mediocre. And then when we broke up, I broke up with my mediocre girlfriend. I would start going out. I was in New York City, and I wanted to get laid, and I could not approach. It was horrible. So that approach, I was completely anxious. Just couldn't say anything to girls. Didn't know what to say, do anything. So got super frustrated. Went out. I took a road trip with a buddy of mine through the Southwest United States. I ate some peyote, which opened up my mind. And I'm a big advocate of using psychedelics like peyote, psychedelic mushrooms, and ayahuasca to kind of open up and figure out who you are. When I had the peyote in New Mexico, I realized I've done so much with my life, but why can't I approach girls?
So how old were you at this point in Mexico when you're tripping off your tits?
I was about 27.
Okay.
So 27 years old, not able to meet girls. I looked good on paper, but I couldn't meet girls.
Can you give us an idea of what sort of sexual experience did you had? What was your lay count? What sort was the quality of girls you were banging at this pre-game point?
I was only meeting girls through social circle. So I was not meeting them. When I went out, I would never be able to talk to a strange girl. The only way I was getting laid, I got laid pretty frequently, but it was through social circle because it was so big. I was always into, the music scene, the art scene, the skateboard, snowboard scene. So that's how the girls were coming in, but never, ever, ever able to approach girls who were outside of that social circle.
Right, so do you find that meant you were okay at the escalation side and the seduction side, was it? Because you are getting experience of that. It was the actual opening and attraction side, if you put
That
into PUA stuff, right?
Yes, yeah, the initial approaching and attraction. That was where I could not do it unless the girls knew who I was through friends or whatever. So we're in New Mexico. I ate the peyote and I realized there's something wrong with my life. And then in Vegas, well, actually, I ended up after the peyote, I ended up fucking this big giant fat girl in New Mexico. That was another change. Like I did not want to fuck her, but I ended up fucking her just because I was horny, and that was the only girl I could fuck. Just this, and she was just coming on to me the whole time. So this was like, what am I doing with my life? And
Well, yeah,
where do
fucking a fat girl in Mexico, right? I can imagine that would trigger a
not
bit of
just fat, like
yeah.
giant. So then I went to Vegas with my friend, and we're like, all right, we're gonna get laid in Vegas. This is where people get laid. And when we went there, I couldn't approach, just super nervous. Ended up going back to the hotel. I Googled how to meet girls, and I came across the game by Strauss.
Yeah.
And that was when, I started using those tactics, the cube, the routines when I went out, and then I realized it started working, but I was only fucking 6s and 7s with those routines.
Yeah.
And then once I fucked enough 6s and 7s, and then I started reading like more advanced game stuff, and then it all started getting internalized, and then I'm going on 4 or 5 dates per week, and then fucking 2 girls per week, and then it all escalated from there. I tried to make that, but that was the journey. So
about how long do you think it took? I mean, were you getting laid right off the bat, just not with the quality you wanted, or did you have like a long grinding period?
I had the grind. No, I was getting laid off the bat as soon as I started using the routines from the pickup artist stuff, but it wasn't quality girls.
Yeah.
They weren't very quality at all. But that 6 and 7, they respond to the pickup artist stuff. The routines, and that's what you do, and they're kind of easy. But those weren't the girls I want to fuck. I want to fuck the high quality girls. Like every man does.
So
the quality was big. Because when you're running the pickup artist stuff and the routines and everything, they work very, very well on the 6s and the 7s. But then I was not happy with that. Like, I wanted to fuck the girls that I wanted to fuck. Like, those were the ones. You could go out in New York. It's pretty easy because girls are going out to get laid. Like, it's New York City, but I want to fuck the quality that I want to fuck, and that's when I started. Like, when I came across your book, Day Game Nitro. Right. That's when you started talking about, like, you had this one passage in there was about when your blood, you feel it in your blood.
Right, yeah.
And that's when you really should approach the girl, and that's when you kind of get anxious about it. Like, but when you feel it in your blood, and I started reading what that Day Game Nitro stuff, that's when it clicked. Like, then it was okay to be the man. Like, it's okay to fuck the girls that you want to fuck. It's okay to do that because society pushes that against you all the time. Like, it's not okay to go up and be aggressive and just, feel like yourself and saying, like, I want this girl because I'm attracted to her. And so when I read your stuff, like, it was like, you said, like, it's her lucky day. Like, bring her to adventure and don't be afraid to be crazy, because that's how I am naturally. Like,
right.
Just like that. Like I told you, I grew up with extreme sports, like the skateboarding scene, the snowboarding scene, the extreme sports scene. And then when I read your stuff, it was finally bringing that into meeting girls, and that's when a lot of things clicked.
So what had been? Okay. So the game you'd been doing before, in what way had it been different? Had you been like having to inhibit yourself somehow, or play a different role? Like what sort of thing had you been doing that you wanted to get away from?
It felt very inhibiting. Like it felt like I was following a routine, or I'd follow a certain structure, which that's not my natural state. And once I got out of my natural state and I started just doing whatever I wanted to do, I started fucking much higher quality girls.
Right.
when I started being myself, and when I saw a girl, like, oh my god, like that's the one that I really want to fuck. I want to go up to her and just look her in the eye and not say it directly, but just project this image out of my face, like I want you so bad, and kind of get it to her in a way, like a subconscious way.
Right.
Like, you can say whatever you want, but as long as you're projecting that energy that you want to fuck her, then that's okay.
So, I mean, now that you've got this point where you see you were getting it, what sort of, when was this? What sort of, like, was 2011, 12, 13? When did you kind of make this change?
I made that change. So I started studying game, let's see, in about 2009. I started using the routines and going on dates all the time. And then I read your stuff in about 2010, so about a year and a half after I read the other, like the routines and all that.
Yeah.
And I started using that, but as soon as I started using your shit, I met a girl that I really had a great connection with, a French girl, and I happen to have a very good connection with French girls. And she was actually, I made her my girlfriend for almost 2 years.
All right.
It was directly after, like, and she was pretty much the most beautiful girl I'd ever been with in my life, but she had a great personality. And, like, I really like spending time with girls.
Right.
Like, ones that bring out the best in me. They're very rare because most girls are fucking worthless. But this one that I met, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Well, people, you can say for guys as well.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Like, there's a good shit
post
about women.
Yeah, there's a good post. I think it was Mike Cernovich put up a while back, where he's just talking about how he doesn't like normal people, because like, he thinks normal people are just scumbags, you know, or losers or boring. Yeah, like male or female,
like,
you know.
95% of the population. Like, it's not just girls, it's guys as well. Most of them are a waste of time, and they're not going to give you any inspiration. So I met the one girl, she had everything I wanted, and I actually made her she was my girlfriend for about a year and a half. She lived with me here in Brooklyn for about a year and a half. She's a French girl. And through that time, like, having her, like, having this absolutely beautiful woman, like, as, like, a big mutual love, like, it made we call it inner game.
Yeah.
Like, the inner game it just got stoked in me, and my confidence shot up. But then after a year and a half of being with her, like, I realized, like, I need to do what I got to do. Like, I don't want a family. Like, I don't want kids. Like, I don't want to stay with her. So we broke up, and then after that, that's when I could basically go out and do whatever I wanted.
So while you were with her, were you out of the game, or were you still getting a bit done on the side?
Well, she was French, living in New York, so she had to go back to Europe for a little while to do her visa thing. So she was gone for weeks at a time. When she was gone, yeah, I was fucking around.
Right.
And she knew I was fucking around. She was like, I know what you do. You're a man. I know what you do. I just don't want to know. Like, I know what you do. I just don't. That was her saying. I don't want to know.
So was well, why don't you just tell us a little bit? How did you meet her? Was that like bar, club, street?
No, I met her through a social circle. Like, I was fucking this French girl just on the side, and then all our friends were beautiful, so I wanted to hang out with them, obviously, and like, I would take them out. We'd go see rock shows. I took them all to a strip club at one time in Brooklyn, and this one girl, the one that I ended up dating, I was watching her the whole time, and the way she acted, she wasn't like your typical slut. She came from a good family, so she never, like, guys would always hit on her because she was very beautiful, and I watched the way she acted for about 4 months. And I liked it because she never was that, the slutty girl. She was like everything I wanted. So I watched her for about 4 months. And then we started really, like, hanging out. We went on a trip together. And on that trip we took together, that's when we started hooking up, having sex. And that's when we became, like, mutual lovers.
Well, but let's go into this a little bit more, because there's two reasons why this story interests me. Well, actually, there's a few reasons. One is that what you're kind of saying is something I've believed for quite a long time, which is that, there's sluts and there's not sluts. And just because they often look a little bit similar superficially, it's not like every girl is going to throw you in the river that the next super alpha walks past, right? So you take your eyes off her for 60 seconds and she's blowing some guy in the back seat of his car, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's just not true. I mean, there's girls like that, but they're all like proper like high value girls with impulse control out there, even in the middle of New York, right?
Yeah, this is like I said, I observed her for 4 months, and in that 4 months, I never saw her. Like the guys, she was beautiful, but she would kind of, she had her distance. She liked every girl likes attention, but the way she took her attention was like something I never saw before.
Right. So another reason this interests me is you talked about the inner game thing. Now there were in my first couple of years in the game, there were 4 girls which I wrote about in my memoir, which had quite a formative experience on me in just making me appreciate women and realize that there's a lot of good women out there, but that you got to find them and you got to recognize them and you got to pull them in, but there's a relatively small number of them relative to the ones who are either mediocre or just downright horrible.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know, have you ever tried to put like percentages or numbers on this about which girls you think are worth your time and which girls are the like little unicorns that you really get excited about?
Well, this is the same thing for people in general. Like I think, like I said, 95% of people are just gonna waste your time. This goes with girls and guys. So yeah, I mean, I've also been seeing a French girl for the past almost 10 months here in New York. She knows what I do when I travel. She knows I fuck around. She reads my blog. Her legs are on the cover of Camera Game. So my book, like Camera Game, those are her legs. She knows exactly what I do. But I've had her around for the past 10, 11 months. And I would say like only 5% of the girls that I actually interact with are ones that I would actually want to spend time with, like have a date with. Most of the girls that I fuck, it's only a one-night thing.
Right.
Yeah. Pretty much all the girls that I fuck.
Again, it's
a one-night thing.
This will be interesting when we're a bit late in this chat when we get into your model, your technique. We'll get into precisely that, because that's very different to what I do, and what a lot of my friends do. Right. Another thing that interests me, what you said about these French girls, is how they know what you do and that you fuck around and that they may read your blog, might even come into the actual allowing their legs to be donated to the cover of your book. And that's kind of what I've had. It's what Steve has, Tom has, Eddie has, who I'm talking about, like the London guys now, is, for example, Eddie has he's going to put up a video quite soon because he was on that BBC Britain's Biggest Sexist show. So I hope I'm not stealing I hope I'm not stealing this thunder here, because it was actually my idea when he's asking me about it. He's actually got 3 of his regular girls to hold up one of those "I need feminism because" papers, right? But it's I need sexism. I need Eddie's sexism because, and then they're basically saying like stop bad mouthing my guy, because these girls all know about the Straight Attraction channel, and they're actually they're putting up pictures of themselves like dressed up, looking sexy, to say, look, like Eddie's my favorite sexist, he's my biggest sexist. And then Steve's got a couple of things I don't want to talk about because I think they're secret, but he's got a couple of things of that type of girls who know what he's up to and are happy to be a part of it. Tom, he's had a few girls who know all about the coaching and the channel, and I've had any time I've got a girl on for quite a while, I'll always tell her. And I think what's interesting there is, on the one hand, how many girls, so long as they know you care about them and there's affection there as well as sex, they're like, okay, yeah, you're a guy. Yeah, it's kind of what you're supposed to. It's kind of cool,
This blew my mind when I got into like the deep part of game, where you can actually be honest and tell them like, I'm not looking for a relationship. Like, this is what I do. Like, I want a relationship when I want to have kids, and I don't want to have kids in another 10 years. So right now I'm just doing whatever I want to do. And they respond to that. And when that clicked in my head, like, it was a huge shift, because I never thought like girls would. I always thought them as like beautiful, innocent creatures.
And you've also been taught that you're supposed to dedicate yourself to them, right? Like monogamously, and fall on a grenade for them,
Yeah, and when I like, especially when they started reading my blog, that was like unbelievable to me. Like they saw that this is what I do, like basically for a living. This is what I fucking do. Like that actually blew my mind. So yeah, it's a big insight to girls' character when
Now,
yeah
what I think that's about, in my experience, is it's about emotional honesty. You know, I
yeah
think men value factual honesty, and women value emotional honesty, i.e., that you convey what you're really feeling, convey what you really think. Now, and that can change, right? That can change from day to day in a girl's world. Men, not so much. Whereas men really care that, you tell the truth as we conceive it, which is,
yeah
the sky is blue, the grass is green, right? And like this first came to mind, this is going back to about 2010, 2011 when I was in Croatia with Jimmy. And I think we were watching one of the infields, or he was on a date or something. And one of the girls was saying, look, like, I bet you do this all the time, picking up girls on your holidays. He's like, well, a little bit. And she's like, I bet you have a bunch of girlfriends. He's like, no, I don't really have a girlfriend. There's just a few girls who like me, nothing serious. And
hmm
he said like that really pulled the girl in because most guys would lie, obviously,
hmm
and they'd detect the lie or at least suspect the lie, and then that emotional honesty's gone, right? The emotional truth is gone.
yep
But what Jimmy did is he was basically giving the emotional truth. It was factually and emotionally correct, but it was also the very fact he was saying something which could theoretically push her away was meaning she was like, right now, I can now believe this man's emotional truth, even
hmm
though it involves having to share him with other girls. And
yeah
I think when you
and
combine that with an affection component, it's very powerful.
and that blew my fucking mind when I like that first came to when I realized that when I started actually doing it, and the girls responded 100% better when I was that emotionally honest because they're girls, they're emotional creatures, and they're better than us at emotional intelligence. They're more present for that. Like you just said, that blew my fucking mind, man. That was a big shift.
Now, do you find though that there's a time limit on it? Because one thing I've found is you can't really keep girls like this for longer than 2 years. At some point, their body agenda kicks in and says, "I need a proper guy." Like a guy who's gonna like put the ring on my finger or move in
But
together.
yeah, but I haven't had a relationship over 2 years because of that reason. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was the reason I broke up with my beautiful French girl, who most guys would fucking shoot themselves in the head to be with. And I broke up with her because I could tell that disconnect was happening because she wanted more than that. So,
Right,
yep.
and so let's move on.
All right.
So we've talked about how you got into game and starting to get good at it. Can you give us a little bit of insight then into your style? Because you've been writing about it lately, both on your blog and you've done your one night stand book and
Yeah.
your camera game book. So how about let's talk about the Goldman model, as it were. What were the influences in an outside game, and then after that we'll get into what do you actually do? What do you recommend people do to have the sort of success you have?
All right. Well, how that model happened is, I mean, I've been going out and just experiencing the nightlife ever since I was 15 years old, with like the punk rock shows, the snowboarding, the skateboarding scene, like all of that, like going to all these different experiences, and I got very, very good at determining what the good kind of energy is in any kind of situation. So whether it's if you're at a loud concert, like being the craziest guy dancing at the concert, bringing people in, and just like making the party happen. Like I could be good at that. Or if it's a relaxed lounge, and just if you have to be mysterious and be like that mysterious guy who that people want to know and is like getting people around them. That's what I get good at as well. Or if it's like during the day, like the girl that I posted up on Twitter recently, this beautiful German girl who came to New York to model. Like I met her in Times Square, and she was just sitting there at a table, like doing nothing. And I approached her, but I had the camera game, and I pulled her into that. I took her photo, and then she told me she was here to New York to model, and she was wondering, like, do you know any model agents? I was like, no, but I could do a photo shoot with you. It's just like vibing to the energy in the situation. Like I got
Right.
very, very good at that. But that comes with experience. Like since I was 15, I was going out and experiencing all that. So the Goldman model is picking up on the vibe of the whole place, like what's going on at that situation in that time.
Now, I'll tell you something which I've been doing in day game this year, and let me know if this has parallels to what you do. But like when we talk about this kind of thing, I think a lot of guys who are like beginners or intermediate, their bullshit detector goes off, right? They start thinking that we're being like woolly and esoteric and pseudoscientific and psychobabbling, right? But I think it's real, even if we're just talking in terms of symbolism, right? Like speaking figuratively. So what I do often when I'm on the street is I try to put myself in a mental state where I'm opening up all of the pores of my skin to become sensors. You know, it's like, you know, like when a jellyfish has all those little like tendrils coming out, just like taking the measure of the ocean. Is I kind of psychologically try and do that, even though maybe I'm just bullshitting myself, right? Maybe it's just, but it's about putting myself into a certain mindset, you know?
And Nick, one of your podcasts, I forgot which one it was, but you're walking through, like you're just walking through the streets of London, and you're like looking at like the trees, and you're noticing the colors of the flowers or whatever. You're noticing like, okay, there's this many bricks in the building, and that hit home for me, because that was very, very important, because you're tuning yourself to the environment. And then once you do that, like you kind of get this energy where you get this flow, and you can do whatever you want. So then when you talk to another human being, like that flow comes out, and they want to connect with you.
Yeah, I think
you know what podcast I'm talking
about? It's number 3, the solo day game mindset. I remember that one.
That's when you're talking about, like, I'm seeing the trees, and I'm seeing like the colors and everything.
Now, perhaps that's something we could go off on a tangent on them, because there is a apparent contradiction, paradox, because I don't think it's a real contradiction. There's a apparent paradox that, on the one hand, guys like you and I can be extremely fast, sleazy, and gung-ho. You know, where you're like, you know, gutter gaming at night, you see your girl, you spot her as being like up for it maybe, you go in, you slam her with the masculine presence, you heat her up, and, you know, maybe 20 minutes later you're pulling her home and fucking her. So that's all very like high energy drama, you know, like Call of Duty run and gun style, you know. But then there's other times where what we're doing is very slow, very soft, almost like, you know, like Buddhist chakra fucking game, you know.
Yeah, it's calibrating yourself.
And these things are, it's the same person with the same mindset doing essentially the same model. It's just how you're amping the dial, you know, what you're choosing to turn up and down. I don't know, do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, that's calibrating yourself to the energy of the environment that's pretty much what it is. Whether it's night game or day game or anywhere. If you're at work, anything.
Right. So let's talk a little bit then about like what is camera game? I mean, people like, what does that entail? I know you got a book about it.
Yeah, I got a book about it, and I've been using it more recently. But it's basically, the way I like to break it down is, it puts yourself out there, because I take the camera, and you go up to a girl and on the street who you think is beautiful, and you say, "Excuse me, can I, I'm doing a photography project, can I ask you a question and take your photo?" And then she agrees. 90% of the time she's going to agree. Ask her whatever you want. What I've been doing recently is saying, can you write down a fantasy, any kind of fantasy, if she's drinking, if she's been sexual, if it's like out during the day, she writes down wherever she wants. She writes down wherever she wants. While she's doing that, you tease her. You kind of get where she's coming from. That's when the screening comes in so well. That's why I like camera game, because once she's writing it down, you can kind of fuck with her and do whatever you want and see if she's a girl that you actually like. And then it puts you in the position of, do I like this girl? Do I want to hang out with her? Do I want to talk with her more? Or is she being a stupid bitch? So
right. So here, before we move into the next step of your camera game, I just want to explore what you just raised there. I think once you got all the fundamentals down, right, and you're competent at it, a lot of it comes down to forcing your own compliance tests of throwing something out there and seeing what she does with it. You know, it's like the main way. The way I originally theorized this was when I was talking to one of my friends who's a Thai boxer. He's a professional Thai boxer. He had a British title at one point, but he's also a PhD guy, very smart. And he was just offhand over a beer. He was telling me his like theories of Thai boxing, you know, like how to be a good fighter. You know, and it's not just about do your push-ups, do your running. It's not just about work the bag. What he's saying is that when he's in the ring, what he'll do is he will start a kind of exploratory process with his opponent, where what he does is he'll do some kind of combination, say 1-2, purely to watch what his opponent does when his opponent does the 1-2. Then a bit later, he'll come back to the 1-2 and see if and he's basically thrown different patterns, different distances, different speeds, and he's looking for any repeatable pattern in the opponent's reactions, so that then he can throw that combo precisely to trigger that reaction, because he then got his big shot lined up for the space, right? Now, so he's saying that's like a percentages thing. So, but what he's not doing is trying to land every shot. He's not trying to land these 1-2s. It's all. This is what they say when boxers set something up. You put something out there which gives you a predictable response, which can therefore be done on demand to put them in the position for the thing you really want to hit them with, right? And Floyd Mayweather's genius at this. And I was thinking a lot of games about that. You're putting these little things out, like in your case, you know, you say you're getting to write this thing down. That gives you something, right? Something comes back when she starts writing that down. You throw out these little teasers, you said to screener, things come back. And your pattern recognition system is going to start, I don't know, I call it spider sense. Your spider sense starts going when subconsciously you start to see these things slot into place, and you think, I know how to deal with this girl, and it's the sort of girl I want, and I think she's up for it, right? I don't know, does that sound about right?
That is exactly it. I love the analogy you just made, because it only comes with practice as well. Like that's what I'm saying. Like guys got to go out, they got to fuck a bunch of 6s and 7s, and then go out and put yourself in front of the girls that you really want, and then you get to see what. I love it. What you just said was absolutely brilliant, because that's exactly how it works. And with the girls that I've been really attracted to, I've been trying this thing where with the eye contact, and with the girl that I just threw up on Twitter, that I'm hoping something happens with. This is a girl I met in Times Square. I came to New York to model. With her, I played the eye contact game with her, and this is a very advanced kind of thing that I've only been dealing with recently, but it works well with the more beautiful girls, and the girls that, like, when your blood starts flowing, and that's when you look at them, and you're not looking like, I want to fuck you. You're looking at them, and you're looking like deep into them, and you're actually honestly interested in what they have to say to you. And that's what I did with this German girl. Like, I asked her questions, and when she was responding, I looked right into her pupils, like right into her black hole pupils. Like, and I was not thinking about fucking her. I was like, all right, I want to know what you have to respond with. And once she started responding, and she could tell, because the girls, like you said, they're very emotionally responsive. She could tell that I wasn't there to, like, I wasn't nervous about her beauty. I was there to actually hear what she had to respond with. Of course I wanted to fuck her, but she could see that. And once she saw that I was looking into her, her whole face melted. And once that happened, I knew I could escalate. Like, okay, here's my phone. Here, let's arrange a date. Let's do something.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different. Like, I'm thinking of this obviously from the London side of things. Like some of the concepts we talked about, and the ones I couldn't mind there are eye mesmer, hypnotic scanning. I think those would be the two big, and the Hmong face as well. So
I don't know any of this.
Right. Well, right.
I gotta dig deeper into you guys.
Right. So eye mesmer. That's the idea that you put the eyes on a girl, like you know, like the mesmerists, the hypnotists, right? You know, the guys like 100 years ago who would do the ooh, and then the like girls are like rocking, right? You because you can do this. Like you do it on girls. You hit them with the eyes.
German girl in Times Square, dude. She was fucking hypnotized.
Yeah, and they start like swaying and stuff, you know.
Yes. Yeah, her whole face.
And then the Hmong face is when you said they go slack. They just look at you like a mongoloid, you know. They're like this. That's always a good one.
They're hungry for more.
And then the other one, hypnotic scanning. What we mean by this is, it's like if you imagine through the eyes, that's like the network connection by which your hard drive and her hard drive scan each other,
All
like
right, that's a
scanning the DNA.
telekinesis thing. Yeah, yeah.
And but what you get is when it works, because I think it's a real thing, is the eyes themselves are very sharp, like in your focus, but everything around just kind of blurs and goes out of focus, kind of like a depth of field effect in a movie. And
Yeah.
it's really weird because that's when the electricity sparkles. And the
Yep.
moment, if on the street, if I feel that electricity, and you only have to feel it for a fraction of a second, if you
Yeah.
feel it, you're like, right, she fancies me.
Yeah.
Now, that's what I
Yeah.
always say. I put the eyes on them. I'll try and get, and sometimes they go in and out of it as well. You know, it's like a normal chat. It's like think of it like this way. Imagine you're sitting having a chat and it's bright sunshine. It's a normal chat, and then suddenly the clouds come over, and the darkness comes, and then they pass, and it's all bright again, and then the darkness comes, and you're like, ooh,
Oh,
fucking hell.
yeah.
So
And that's oh my God, it's such a beautiful feeling.
yeah, I fucking love that because you put it out there, and you know sometimes it never comes back. You put it on them, and they just don't play ball, and you're like, ah, shit. But when it
Yeah.
comes back, you're like, oh, fucking come on.
Oh, it's a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Oh.
So let's talk a bit more. Like, let's go a bit further through your camera game. Then, so what happens next? Is there a next, or does it then become a normal set, normal game?
Well, with the camera game, yeah. Sometimes, like with camera game, it's very easy to bounce them to a new venue because I could say, like, all right, I'm taking a break now. Let's go have a beer or something like that. Yeah. The last one though, she was with a couple of friends, and so I arranged to like have a photo shoot with her because she came to New York to be a model, and so she's supposed to come. I'm hoping if I do if this works out very well, I'll do a post with it on my blog. But she's supposed to come this weekend. We're gonna do a photo shoot around my neighborhood in Brooklyn. But it's just super easy to start a conversation, and like it puts you in the position like you're a man like doing something. You have a project that you want to do, and the girl is a part of that project, and she just melts like a motherfucker, and it's amazing. I'm not even a good photographer. Like my pictures are shit, but it doesn't matter. You've got the tool in your hands. They're responding to it, and plus I genuinely do like to see what they have to write down.
Yeah.
And that's important. Like I'm not doing it coming from a fake standpoint. Like I really want to see what's in their head, because then it's me screening them. Like if they're stupid girls, like 95% of the girls are just fucking idiots. I don't want to deal with. But if there is like a cool girl who writes down something interesting, like that's somebody that I'll have good energy with, and we'll arrange something else.
Just for the guys listening who want this broken down to brass tacks, I mean, how many girls typically are you approaching with this camera game style? And of those, how many of them do you stay in set with, like where you make it a good go? And how many do you just take the photos, say, anyway, thanks, I got to find the next girl for the project. Goodbye. We'll call you. Don't call us. Yeah,
I would say, all right, so, well, I'm also in New York, so New York is a completely different animal than anywhere else I've ever been, but I would say probably when I ask to take a photo, 90% of the girls say yes, and of those 90%, like, we exchange information, maybe 70%, and then it's up to you. I mean, I fucked a bunch of girls just on that same day. From the camera, I've set up endless dates, but I don't like to do dates. I don't know. I'm bad with statistics, Nick. I'm super bad with statistics. I hate thinking about them. It kind of fucks up my game when I think about them. So,
all right.
But it works well. I can promise you that. Like, it works very, very well.
So how would you let's see, how do you move into the hitting on them bit, right? Because I mean, to a normal guy with normal game background, what he's hearing is this is indirect game, right? And the thing with indirect is you have to transition.
All right, yes. All right, so the way you transition is when she's writing something down, you tell her, like, write down something dirty, or write, like, you're super cute, like, write down something dirty. If she writes down something dirty, that's the best thing you could ever imagine, because then she's into it. After that, it's just bouncing information off each other and seeing if you have a good vibe. The best thing, like camera game, when she's writing the shit down, then you can screen very, very quickly. Like if she's into it, she'll be into it. It's very, very easy to detect.
Yeah.
It's all when she's writing the shit down and you're bouncing it off her.
Okay.
But
Well, let's move on a little bit then.
all right, that's good.
So, perhaps you want to talk a little bit about specific influences, both inside the community of where you got ideas from, but or maybe people who you hung out with that you learned from, but also like non-community things like literature, movies, art, music, people's
Yeah.
life stories. You know, like what went into that melting pot to produce the type of game you do now?
I mean, my biggest part of when I can connect with girls, I would say it was reading literature. I mean, I studied philosophy and psychology and literature when I was in university, and that's most of my conversation with girls. And studying all that stuff and reading so much is where you form the good connections. But when I read Neil Strauss's book, The Game, and I started using like the routines, the cube
Yeah.
and those routines, and that's when I realized you can fuck sixes and sevens, no problem, as long as you get them hooked. And then I read like Royce, was good, but you know,
Seems very different to what you do now. You know,
yeah,
it's
very,
that
very.
the
But
dark triad alpha type
it was just
douchebags,
good
very
to
different.
read
Yeah.
about, like good to read about, and just to know that shit was out there. Like even like Roosh, it was good to know like these nerds could go out there and get laid just having this formula. Like it was just good to know in the back of
Yeah.
my mind, even though I'm not using that formula. It's just good to know. So just what I say, I read everything, like everybody, everything. When I read your shit, that's when because I studied a lot of psychology and philosophy. Then the psychology started coming into picking up women. Like this is what works. This is where you should just not be afraid to do what you want, and that's what I was drawn to. And this, dude, I read your Nitro book. That's the only book I needed to fucking push me to the edge.
Hey, I hope everyone listened to this has got the credit cards out. You know, available at
No, that's what
lulu.com.
I needed. Like I had such a good connection with that book, and then I felt like I was free and I could do whatever I want
Yeah.
because, like what you said with the blood flow, like
Yeah.
if something feels like in your blood, it's okay. You should not be afraid to be a man. Like
Yeah.
it's in your blood. Like there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
And that connected with me so much. And once I learned that and I started doing that, like then, yeah. But you should learn whatever you want and then kind of conform it to what your personality is like.
Right, so let's talk a bit about let's analyze yourself. If you can do a bit of New York psychotherapy on yourself, then what do you? I mean, like from the outside looking in, and just so the readers know, this is literally the first time I've spoken to Goldman.
Yeah.
Everything else I only know via his blog or
Yeah.
reputation. Now, the feeling I get with you, I'll just give you a
Yeah, go
a
ahead.
pop psychology, back of a postage stamp, cold read, well, warm read. Sounds to me like you, in your younger days, you were a natural Sigma, always rebellious, always wanting to go your own way and, like,
Yeah.
fuck the rules. You were always pretty extroverted, like being around people, like being in various scenes, like being around people. But, a bit inhibited with a religious thing and not knowing how to cold approach. And then now you've basically parlayed that into what I think in the what would it be? There's a Robert Greene art of seduction archetype for this, or maybe it's a mix of them. And I think I don't know if you ever seen that David Angelo ebook about the 8 types of men, 4 of them who are attractive to women for adventure, sex, and 4 of them who aren't. And you would seem to fit into the like adventure raconteur style, the love for life, the joy for the moment, the
Yeah,
creativity, the smells of
yeah.
the flowers, the taste of the coffee, the feel of the heat of the sun on your skin, like you bring that out
Yeah.
to the girls.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I do. Like, I'm very much into nature and art. I mean, I'm an artist. I mean, that's what I do. Like, I project this. Like, it's all about feeling and traveling and seeing the whole entire world. Like I tell every girl that I meet, like, I want to feel the whole entire world. I want to fuck the entire world. I want my dick in the entire world. I will tell this to girls that I meet, and she knows. Like, when she hears that, yeah, he wants his dick in me.
Yeah, of
So, like,
course,
I'm part of the world. But yeah,
But
and
so's that big black guy over there.
the big black guy will be my wingman because yeah, But
Yeah. So I mean, so what other person? I mean, okay. Something I was talking to with Mr. Shotgun on last week.
it's just shotgun.
This is a guy that we both know.
Yeah.
We're seeing that a lot of the London day gamer guys, because of the nature of the style, and especially the ones who do the Euro trips, we are all very stubborn, very obsessive, and normally very introverted. And I
Yeah.
don't think, now I don't know where you are on a stubbornness or obsessiveness, but you don't appear very introverted. You know, I'm very reclusive, you know, because I'm very
Yeah.
happy just staying at home playing video games, not talking to anyone.
You know what's hilarious?
Yeah.
I'm extremely introverted.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I'm extremely introverted. Dude, I love video games. I got Fallout 4.
Fuck, I'm gonna get that next week when my new
I,
desktop
I,
PC
I just got
arrives.
it this past weekend, and I'm probably gonna just stay. I was supposed to go out tonight, but I'm probably gonna stay in and play it. But and honestly, I don't like people.
Mm,
Like I like individuals. Like I
right.
will. That's why I have a good connection. When I meet a good girl, I would say a good girl, a girl that I have a good connection with. That's when the magic happens. But I'm not that fucking. I'm not extroverted at all, man. Like
So do you think
I'd rather
that's
just stay home. But I had to force myself to become extroverted. I had to force, and for a little while there, like I did a lot of drugs and I got drunk a lot, and then I forced myself to learn how to act when I was like on drugs or drunk,
mm,
and then I learned how to do it when I wasn't on drugs or drunk,
hmm
and then I knew how that psycho. But it took that was a few years, man. I was fucking fucked up for a long time.
So do you still do that? Do you still act extroverted when you're out doing the night game?
Yeah,
Because day game you
it's an
don't have to, right? So
Yeah, it's an act.
right,
When I
okay.
like I said, but there's times and places for it. There's like the chill lounge where I could be myself. But if there's a place where people are out and they're being extroverted, I will be the most extroverted crazy motherfucker there because I know how it works.
Right, right, right.
Like I've been in that situation, but that's what like adapting to the energy. That I think that's it's a talent that I have.
Right.
It's like feeling the energy and then adapting to it.
Well,
And
again, something else I'm thinking of here then when you say introvert, it goes, I think a lot of this charisma, deep connection game is intrinsically introverted. I think introverts
yeah,
have an advantage on that. You know, I think the flashy, high energy stuff is more suited for guys who are naturally extroverted, right? Where you just create this like
yeah,
vortex, spin everyone round, pump them up, and then try and pull one of them into the bathroom, you know?
yeah.
Whereas I think this bit about getting to feel the girl and getting inside of her head, I think that comes more naturally to introverts. It certainly does to me.
Yeah, and that's what I'm good at, getting into girls' heads. So the a huge thing that I've been seeing with the guys that I've been coaching, and then when the girls don't react to them, is that they are revealing way too much. And when you become mysterious, especially with like my specialty is European girls, they don't really want to know like what you do or what they don't want to know who you are. You want to remain a mystery. And these guys, when they meet these girls for the first time, they're spilling their guts to them. And like, yo, dude, you gotta fucking just hang back for a little bit and get them to guess questions about you. And then, like, because the women, they're so good at creating fantasies. And one of the photo projects I have recently is like their women's fantasies, and they have such good imaginations. And if you remain mysterious, and if you just come back with like 1 or 2 word answers, like yeah, I do this, or guess what I do. All right,
But
yeah,
it's been shown in psychology, hasn't it, that they've done studies where if you have like missing bits of information, people always fill it in with positive. So
what they want.
yeah, so you know, like if your mate, some guy tells you a story
Yeah,
about fucking a girl, you automatically visualize that girl as being a 7 or better, right?
of course, yeah.
And then if you end up seeing a picture and she's a 4, you're like, oh, dude, man, you should have kept that bit mysterious, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's the same thing when you're talking to girls for the first time. Like, let them fill in those little bits of mystery, because they're always going to fill it in with the best possible thing, because they want to fuck like the best possible guy. So
And I think as
that
well,
is,
the type of game we do, I think it's even more pertinent if you're doing the one night stands like you do, is the game I do is it's what I term the all selected game, where you're basically doing a hit and run on the girl, right? You're swooping into her hometown, picking her off the street where nobody knows, getting into her head, whirling her around and fucking her. The whole thing is based on mystery.
Yep, and that's why I love traveling. Like, when I travel, like, that's when I get laid the most. Like, here in New York, like, I get lazy in New York, man. I told you, I got my French girl here that, and I like, she's my regular and she's awesome, but when I travel, like, I want to fuck the entire world, and, like, that's, when my game is at the tip top. Because that's when I can, and plus I do want to fuck as much as I can. Like, I'm getting older, like, I'm getting into my mid-30s, and like, I honestly, I couldn't fuck every night here in New York. I just couldn't do it in my hometown. But when I'm traveling, like, that's when I want to fuck every girl that in a new city that I travel to.
Well, I got to say, my own feeling is, I mean, I'm 40 years old. I've probably got different hormones to you, but different personality. But for me, I never lose interest in fucking a new girl. But fucking hell, I very quickly lose interest in fucking the same girl. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's a difference between us, but I was just I just tweeted about this the other day. I've got a little girl in Kiev who I really like. It was one of my best of the year. You know, I've had a slow year, but it was one of my best of the year. She's a little fucking 17-year-old girl, right?
17.
Yep, 23 years younger than me. See, it gets even better. She's a white supremacist. On her Facebook, she's like Adolf Hitler. She turned up on the first date wearing a T-shirt that said "white girl" and then a fucking cross on it, you know. So anyway, so quite funny, right? But yeah, anyway, lovely girl. But I mean, she speaks no English, right? Everything we say is on Google Translate. But yeah, it's like halfway through fucking her the second time, I was already getting bored. I was like, how is it possible to get? And she was, you know, like probably the hottest girl I fucked all year, you know. So you know, at the very upper limit of what I've been getting, and I was still fucking bored. Now, part of that's like the language, not being able to connect, but it was one of those weird. I don't know if you get these moments, but where your moment of greatest triumph, you're most depressed. Like I was like here, like I was just fucking banging this little fucking hot 17-year-old, and just all this sort of stuff, and I was just thinking like, Nick, your life's shit. I was like, God, this is so boring. You know?
Well, there's the ups and downs of the life. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because it was next thing on my notes was if you can talk about, because you know the whole point of this Womanizers Bible thing is it's meant to be mostly advanced game, so it's either for advanced guys to like nod their head and be in yep like feeling like our peers, or for the intermediate guys to give them, you know, the next thing to look up to.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about the player life as you experience it, you know, the good and the bad of it. So maybe talk generally. Now I've got a few other points I can maybe like try and prod you with after that.
Eagerly pursuing all the youngest, hottest girls, 'cause he's a dedicated follower of passion.